Welcome to another episode of the Spirit Podcast. Today, I have with me an amazing guest, a super talented medium. Her name is Jeni Juranics, and she's located in Ontario, Canada. I'm excited to have you here. Welcome, Jeni.
Thank you, Pearl. It's so nice to see you face to face today.
I
Excited
know
for our
we
conversation.
we chat on Instagram, and we
Yeah.
kind of found there and developed a friendship in chatting about medium things and what comes up. So it's so lovely to have you here. And I want to get right to it. So, one of my favorite things about you or that I heard about you early on is that you're self-taught. Is that correct? Self-taught medium?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really consider that that is what I would call that or that people even had a term like that until more recently. But yeah, I've been doing readings professionally for 10 years now. And in the beginning, I mean, I live like small town Ontario. There's the nearest spiritualist church, not that I'm a spiritualist, is 2 hours away. And then there are very few mediums in my area. So it's not that I even had the option in person. And
Mhm.
then when I first started doing readings or realizing about my abilities and I went online, there was just nobody that I resonated with or wanted to learn from.
Mhm.
And so I just left it up to spirit. I asked spirit to guide me and here I am 10 years later. So
I just love that. And I think when I heard you say that for the first time somewhere online or maybe on Instagram, I thought, "Oh, I wish I had done that. I wish that I wasn't so quick to jump on a bandwagon and learn the way that somebody else did it."
yeah.
Because I think there's so much wisdom in developing with spirit. And so I think for a lot of our listeners, they might be developing mediums or just curious about developing. Can you describe what that looked like for you? That
Oh,
journey of,
sure.
yeah, working one-on-one with spirit?
Yeah, great question. It's something that I've actually been thinking about talking about myself. So I'm happy to do it here. This is great. I love this. It for me in the very beginning, like every medium, there's that process of, oh my God, is this actually happening? Is this real? Can I actually do this?
Mhm.
Working through those insecurities of like maybe I'm crazy or maybe I'm actually connecting with spirit, right? Like all that happened. But, I think for me, maybe luckily, maybe things were easier for me that it all just kind of really happened. I think that the main thing when I went into, okay, if I'm gonna do readings, if this is something I'm supposed to do, at the time I felt like I was being very guided.
Mhm.
I just said, if they can do it, so can I. And I was very somehow matter of fact about that, if at the time John Edward or whoever the people on TV were, if they have the capacity, the capabilities, if I have a brain and they have a brain, I was like, then I can do it.
Mhm.
And so I really just didn't give myself the opportunity to fail.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of trial and error and learning as you go, but I think that initial just belief in myself really helped. And then, of course, it was probably more like 2 years in,
Mhm.
once it became normal, that it started to get a little more challenging. So
Oh,
I,
really?
just where you start to question, am I good enough? And
Mhm.
because in the online world, starting to get more exposed to lots of other mediums and
Mhm.
Instagram and getting on those platforms, um, judging myself, am I good enough? Should I have been developing with somebody all this time? That sort of thing started to creep in. And so, as you know, as a medium, we can be very hard on ourselves and
Mhm.
there's a lot of self-growth. So, I would say that just developing a strong trust that spirit is never going to fail. Spirit is, fail me. They're never
Mhm.
going to lie or make me look stupid or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's um it's just been a journey of trust.
Yeah.
Trusting spirit.
And how did you develop that trust? Did you go right into practice readings and learning that way? Or did you have sort of a development one-on-one with spirit where you were maybe getting to know your guides and kind of working that muscle that way?
Well, I think for a lot of maybe teaching mediums, my story is one that could be triggering a little bit because it was a very short window between realizing that I could connect with spirit and actually give a reading.
Yeah.
Between that and doing readings and
Mhm.
taking money. And again, for me, it was that it all happened so quickly and felt so exactly how it was supposed to be when it was supposed to be that after 2 months, I was just doing it. I was like, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
um, so the practice was really just on the people who
The,
came to pay me,
the
and they
doing.
knew, I would say
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go, and people have just always been supportive of that.
I
So,
love that.
yeah. Yeah.
And And I think that like that's actually so potent because I think there's only so much you can learn. And
Yeah.
once you kind of get the crux of maybe there's ethics, maybe this is the way it might feel for you. I mean, so much of developing mediumship is watching other people work. I think even reading like memoirs, autobiographies, how did
Yeah.
they do it? Or listening to interviews, how did this person develop? Because your own journey is going to be very unique. And I think it's in the doing that we really unfold the most and
Yeah.
realize how we work.
Yeah, and that became obvious to me right away. So, of course, I did, get on YouTube and listen to all of the interviews, and during that time, I would just try to put myself in that medium's shoes. Okay, they're describing it like this. If that were true for me, what would that feel like? And then next time I would do a reading,
Mhm.
I would compare, oh, maybe that's what they're talking about in that interview, but also this is how it's different for me. And I really just relied on the way it worked for me. I think we have to just let ourselves be ourselves in our
Yeah.
mediumship,
Mhm.
be who we
And that's
are.
such a beautiful thing, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah. I also appreciated reading your bio or your about me on your website and you describing sitting with somebody and how it kind of started to happen. And I love how you described just saying, I'm a medium and and perhaps the way I read it is then their spirit person step forward and you start saying it's almost like you're prompting spirit. The way I read it is like you say, this is what I'm seeing, and then spirit delivers. And I just love the way that you described it because that's so much of it as well, is being brave, putting yourself out there and kind of prompting and
Mhm.
receiving and delivering. So I just really enjoyed that little snippet there
Oh,
about,
thank you.
yeah.
When you say prompting, can I ask you, what do you feel that that is how it works for you or not? Like, tell
Um,
me tell
well,
me.
I guess my interpretation was like when you said I'm a medium, I work with people on the other side, and that almost prompted their spirit person to step forward. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yes.
like it's not like doing too much work, just almost naturally expecting them to work with you in your verbiage and setting it up that way. So because that really is I perhaps the way I work, or I know sometimes I might say in a reading like I know that for work, and then they show me, or just,
Yes.
yeah.
That's why I was asking because I
Yeah.
was like, "Is that how it works for you?" Because
Yeah.
that's how I do it.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you, because
And that's a
sometimes you
great
do.
tip
Yeah,
for
it
mediums. Yeah.
is, to
Hmm.
just start talking.
Hmm.
That's what I've always found. Just start talking.
Hmm.
Don't sit there and freeze
Yeah.
and overthink. Just start, and
Yeah.
that's just how I've always done it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful to hear that, that you do that too.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I heard you say that you are in like a small town area, and I know you do your group readings and you call it the small town tour, is that right? And you go to different small towns. I was so curious because I feel like in the States, and I'm from Texas, which is South and very close-minded for the most part, not everybody. But I imagined if I was to embark on a small town tour in the South, that it wouldn't go over well and I wouldn't sell tickets. So I kind of wondered, is it different in Canada? Are Canadians more open to mediumship? It seems like you have a big support network there.
I do. And so it's Small Town Spirit Tour.
Okay.
Next week will be my 14th location in the last year. And maybe I don't know the difference, but what I know about small towns in Ontario or in Canada is that yes, there can be a little bit of a hesitancy for certain people opening up because everybody kind of knows everybody. That has happened. But no, everyone's been very open and welcoming, and I love the ways that people are connected when you go to a smaller little town, because someone could be coming through for their relative, but other people in the room have recognized the spirit person as well. So that
I
just lights me up because then
I
the whole
love
audience
that.
is involved.
I
Yeah.
feel like I noticed that in one of your videos that you shared, that it felt intimate like that, and that other people, yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, so I want to go right to talking about physical mediumship because I feel like this is a topic that you've covered extensively and that you're very passionate about. And you have so many podcast episodes about it. So I encourage our listeners today to go check those out because you have so much information and knowledge in those episodes. But could you describe briefly why this is something you're so passionate about, why this has been a topic that's rather taboo in the mediumship community, and you've really tackled it head on. And I really appreciate it. So yeah, can you just take some time and explain a little bit about your journey with that?
Okay.
I know it's a
I'm going to
big
try to make it very much in a nutshell. Because I think I've got 8 episodes now, 9, 8, or I don't even know, covering the saga of my journey into physical mediumship and that whole sort of branch, I guess, of mediumship that I really didn't know was still a thing. I mean, as a developing medium, we at some point are going to come across ectoplasm, seances, trumpets, all of those things. But back in June of 2023, I came across a conference in Lilydale at Lilydale Assembly, and it was all about physical mediumship. And so I went, but while I was there, I attended 3 at that time dark seances with people who are calling themselves physical mediums. They're claiming to have ectoplasm being exuded from their bodies, manipulating trumpets, bringing apports or gifts from the spirit world, and materializations and direct voice, and all of the things that you at some point might hear about from the Victorian mediums back in the day. And so, unfortunately, I spent 10 months in sort of a bit of a trance state that I didn't put myself in on purpose and fell victim, I guess we could say, to a lot of abuse and manipulation and um, lies, scams with a lot of fraudulent people. So
yeah.
that's what I've been exposing on my podcast over the past year. It's actually been a year this month that I woke up out of this trance, and passionate about protecting the name of mediumship, protecting people who are grieving, protecting developing mediums who might, like me a couple years ago, be looking for maybe something new in their work or wanting to expand their abilities and experiences. Because at this point, I haven't seen much that was genuine
Yeah.
during that time.
So what was it for you when you did finally wake up and you thought, this isn't right? Something's going on here.
Well, I was at a conference in Albany, New York, where there were 5 different so-called physical mediums performing seances. There were workshops throughout the day. And while I was there, before I set out on that trip, I said, Spirit, I need you to show me the truth.
Mhm.
There's some red flags here. A lot of the things I've experienced, if they are true, they're extremely extraordinary, and I'm not sure they're possible, but I do believe in some of the experiences I've had. And so before I set out, I said, show me the truth. Show me what I need to see here. And while I was there, one of the so called physical mediums claims to have a head materialize in his seances. And I was given a very close position to his cabinet. So physical mediums will sit in a cabinet in a darkened room. There's so much that goes into these things. But
Well, and I heard you say, I just listened to your most recent podcast this morning, and you were saying they say absolutely no photography, no phones. So, and there was an extreme reason they could die, or something
yes,
is what they were saying. And so it's like they're keeping that investigation piece at bay. And
yes.
so, okay. So I just wanted to
Yes.
say that because
And
I,
when you go into a seance, you're also asked to put your skeptical mind to the side because that's going to bring bad vibes. So, like, if you're in there questioning or being negative, or, instead of just feeling the magic of spirit, you're analyzing who could be doing what, that's going to ruin the seance for everybody. And you don't want to take away someone's experience of perhaps having their loved one materialize in solid form. This is what's happening. So this particular guy was putting on a Halloween mask and poking through the fabric of his cabinet and trying to convince us that this head was made of ectoplasm and that eventually it would be able to change into the features of deceased people, and even from there be able to speak to their loved ones left behind here.
Mm.
And so when I saw that, at first I was like, well, maybe this is possible because the lighting was low. But as they increased the lighting slightly for us to be able to see this, was like, this is not right. I've
Mm.
been programmed. I have been lied to. I've been manipulated. I was so embarrassed that I fell for this. So I woke up and I came home and I shared about my experiences to protect other people. And the podcast reached people all over the world.
And you're
And
not the only medium speaking out about it.
yeah,
So, I mean, I appreciate you being so vocal. And I think it's really brave of mediums in the community to speak up against it because I think sometimes there is this feeling of protecting mediumship and
yes.
not talking about it. Whereas, just like there can be like a mechanic that rips people off, there's also great mechanics in the world who are, so this kind of just reminds me of that. Like, not all mediums are created equal, or do you know what so I
Yeah.
think it's like maybe unfortunate that it takes bravery to speak out against it,
Mhm.
but I so applaud you because I do think it's a topic that needs to be brought to the light and discussed. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It hasn't been easy, but I, once I woke up and realized that I need to share my experience, it felt very much that I was supposed to experience this, even though it hasn't been fun,
Mhm.
to keep this, topic current because these
Yeah.
people have been caught in the past. This isn't new, but somehow they've been able to continue on. So we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that as mediums, we are careful not to criticize another medium's work. We want to be supportive, right? We know
Mhm.
how hard it is, but I think we also need to talk about ethics and
Mhm.
the way things are done so that we're protecting
Mhm.
mediumship and the sitters, the people who are
Yes.
coming for the readings. We
Yeah.
need to measure ourselves. And so,
And I think it's almost like a an important part of modernizing
yeah,
mediumship.
yeah.
Um, and so I know, I believe it was Allison Gannon. Am I saying her name right? When I first heard about this, she was very vocal about it. And she was saying that anybody claiming to do physical mediumship, it's fraud. Like it doesn't exist. And I wonder if you feel the same way, because I do think that there are still mediums out there who perhaps cling to the early stories of the origins of mediumship and physical mediumship being very important. And certain people at the beginning, or maybe who am I thinking of with like the spiritualist church and some of those pioneers with mediumship and really believing in physical mediumship? I can't think of his name offhand. Um,
Where's
but
he located?
he was part of the spiritualist church in England. Um, oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. And there's a biography on him called On the
Gordon
Side of
Higginson?
Angels. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Right there. Okay. Um, and did physical mediumship as well, right? So what are your thoughts on all that? Because that's a lot to unpack when it's sort of like this pillar
Yeah.
of the church. And yeah, so I don't know. Can you speak to anything that you've uncovered with that?
Sure. So, in my investigation into the current people who are claiming to be physical mediums, I did have to do a bit of research into like when did this story start?
Yeah.
And it's amazing the emails and messages that have come to me in the weirdest ways. And someone someone even mentioned that their teacher who knew Gordon said, "Oh, physical mediumship, even Gordon would fake it once in a while." So it's one of those things that for some reason, mediums, spiritualists,
Hmm.
spiritual people are afraid to speak about. I just
Yeah.
don't get it. But what I do know is that mediumship is simple. And all of the elaborate, the trumpet was 15 feet up in the air. Some for every person who says this is fraud, they will say, but this was real. And it's really hard to pick apart someone's beliefs based
Yeah.
on what they've seen that
Hmm.
seems to be unexplainable.
Hmm.
I mean, this is what I've dealt with for a year where someone will say, "Oh, that person is a fraud. You're so right, but I believe this person." And then the next person will say, "This person is definitely a fraud, but I believe this person because I saw the table floating in the air or I saw my loved one's face or I held my loved one's hand." It's more complicated than that
Yeah.
because there is a programming and a process that your mind goes through when you enter into these seances or this community because first of all you've got emotion,
Yeah.
second of all you want to believe,
Hmm.
um, and your expectations are groomed before you
Yeah.
even go in. So in my opinion, back to your initial
Yeah.
question here, I'm going to say 99%
Yeah.
is fraud.
Yeah.
And does that mean that some of the mediums of the past, the well-known, at Arthur Findlay College,
Yeah.
did they did they know they were doing it? I think so, but I even think that some of them probably believe their own lies.
Right.
I think that's what it comes down to.
And it's so strange because it's like, for what? Already
Yeah.
what you're doing is miraculous. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so why need to fake it? It's very strange. Yeah.
I think that there can be a lot of ego
Yeah.
in the spiritual circles, and I
Oh,
think
oh, you think? I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Another reason why I developed on my own.
I know.
um I think it comes down to that. I think it's that everyone, not everyone, but these people
Yeah.
want to be special. They want to
Right.
stand out and they just want to be remembered.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
they're
really
being
sad.
remembered now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know. Well, thank you for that. That was a great explanation, and it's such an interesting topic and one that I think should be explored and for years to come to really grow beyond it.
Yeah.
So um, let's see. We've had a conversation off camera about um peers in this industry, friends, maybe there's that like competition energy with mediums. So I just kind of wanted to talk about it because I think it's a little bit taboo of a topic in this industry. And when I was developing early on, and I had a wonderful teacher, she warned me about the community and said, I think it was maybe verbatim, like, you have rose-colored glasses, and not everybody is as they seem, and not everybody wants you to do well. And I thought, no, these are my people, like everybody who can connect with spirit. I felt so excited about connecting with community. And I think really quickly, um, it was just an odd experience with backstabbing and competition and all of that. And I wonder if you could speak to why you think that this industry, why it's so prevalent in this industry, and why that happens. If you have any thoughts to share.
Lots of thoughts.
Mhm.
Luckily, I haven't experienced too much because, as we've said, I wasn't really in development circles and that kind
Yeah.
of thing much. I've done a bit, but I've never had a mentor or a 12-week program or anything like that. I think that mediumship brings out being a medium and making this your career brings out all of your insecurities. I think that we aren't always confident in ourselves, and it's easy to be jealous. I think that's
Mhm.
really just what it comes down to is we aren't taught to just mind our own business, or maybe some people just can't like be happy for other people,
Yeah.
but it's just like any other industry. That's what I've
Yeah.
found, and
Mhm.
it's the industry that you think shouldn't be that way. I had
Mhm.
the rose-colored glasses on in the beginning too. It was actually the physical mediumship stuff that I was like, "Oh, maybe because I didn't have all of that in my
Yeah.
training, maybe I needed it here," because so many people attacked me and this whole notion of like what makes a spiritual person, what makes you good enough, what makes you gifted enough to talk to spirit. It's like, can we
Yeah.
just stop all that?
Mhm.
We're just people who can speak to spirit, and most of us probably can. I believe that if you want to, you can be a medium as well. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's heartbreaking
Yeah.
because we need support as well as mediums.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
not everyone gets us.
Yeah.
We're,
Absolutely.
like my therapist, for example, I feel like she's like, like she's, does she actually believe me? I don't even fucking know. Sorry, am I allowed to swear? Does she actually believe me? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So when we meet that another medium friend, we want it to be a supportive thing, but it just isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just so interesting because I think you nailed it. It's such vulnerable work. We're putting ourselves out there, we're stepping into this unknown. And I think the competitive piece, even early on in classes when we would practice, and then if we got grouped one-on-one to practice, it would be like, "Oh, did you read with so and so?" And I just was like, I felt like I went back into my turtle shell, like, can I handle this? Like, it's so cutthroat.
Yeah.
And maybe that's too why I'm like, oh, you developed just with spirit. What a beautiful thing, Because there really is just so much competition. And I feel like more so than like other industries, but maybe not. It's just been my experience. And I
Mhm.
think that maybe there used to be less mediums, so maybe it felt like there wasn't as much competition. But I do feel like nowadays there's more and more mediums. And I always think if I've ever had like that competitive feeling and I've sat with Spirit, Spirit really clearly said to me, there's no competition when you're helping people.
Yeah.
And so I just come back to that like, yeah, we're all just helping people and there's a medium for everybody.
I
People
was
who are going
just
to be
gonna say
drawn to
that.
you are going to be drawn to you and people come to me for reasons and there's so many people out there.
Yeah.
And different cups of tea for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. I think that our life experiences, our upbringing, our family, whatever, we bring that to our work. And so, yeah, spirit
Yeah.
knows that about us. They're going to send the people our way that we will most be able to help based on that experience too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, a medium for everyone. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with this work, if you have found that you can only work so many hours in a day or so many days in a week, or that connecting with spirit just requires a certain amount of energy for you. What's been your balance, or what have you, on your journey, have you kind of maybe done too much and pulled back? I feel like that's a common story, but I'd love to hear how you've kind of navigated working with spirit.
Mhm. I think in the very beginning, I could do maybe one reading a day and then I would have a nap. And I used to have this ritual of if there was two in a day, I would have a nap in between. I would schedule it so I could really just rest.
Yeah.
And then I became more driven or more concerned with success and of course, demands of bills and things, wanting to do as much as I could to really push myself. And then from there doing bigger and bigger events. And so in the last 4 years, I've definitely probably hit my max.
Mm.
Learned that it is very draining work. I used to say, "Oh, it replenishes me. It makes me," and I think for a while it did because I loved that feeling of, it's like you're meditating. And so that was great, but no, the last 4 years or so, even so the last year, I've really had to search for, I wouldn't say I've found it yet, but a better balance. So
Yeah.
3 readings a day is a lot for me at this stage, and I give myself long weekends. If I
Mhm.
have an event, I get the day off after for sure.
Mhm.
Even then, like, why I need more time off,
Yeah.
essentially. So anyone who's developing, pace yourself.
Yeah.
Pace yourself. I'm sure you've been there too,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you find that you take breaks? Do you take time off? Do you need to unplug sometimes?
In the summer. So
Mm.
here in Ontario, Canada, summer is way too short. And my kids are getting a bit older now. They're in their teens, but especially over the last 10 years when they were little, I would take all summer off. And that's really my time to look after me,
Mhm.
go be in the ocean, go visit family. But I have to schedule in time every couple of months. There's
Mm.
gotta be at least a week off in there every 3 months or
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, that's something in the last couple of years that if I don't do that,
Yeah.
it's not even just that spirit, it's not spirit, right? But it's the energetic demands of serving
Yeah.
and supporting somebody is
Mhm.
exhausting, and I
Yeah.
wanna be the best that I can be. I'm sure
Mhm.
you agree, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
When I feel that, when I start to have that feeling of not like resenting the work, but not wanting to go do a reading, then
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I need to take time off.
Yeah.
And I wonder what is happening like scientifically to our body, because I do feel like something's going on. A reading takes more out of me than just talking to somebody, even if I'm like turned on, like it's like small talk or, it does something different. And so I feel like I'm always asking everybody when I do these interviews, what have you found to take really good care of yourself to support your body and everything, your emotions, your heart, what's your favorite self-care for supporting the medium?
Mhm. I'm in kind of a transitional phase between knowing what that is right now,
Mhm.
but definitely a lot of salt baths,
Mm.
a lot of alone time, soaking in the tub, walking. It's really just the general self-care
Yeah.
things that replenish that kind of life force energy because I do think readings drain your like life force energy. And I wish we could study this, but I feel like it messes with your hormones. I
Oh.
just and your
Mm.
appetite. Like I'm starving after a reading.
I know.
In on days if I don't have a reading, I'm not hungry by that time of day. So I know we're burning a lot of
Mhm.
energy to do a reading. I know it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just the
Yeah,
normal stuff.
I think that's well said, life force energy. That really does feel like we're expending more in that
Mm,
time. Um, And absolutely, I agree. I think alone time would probably be my number one self-care piece that I have applied to my life. I mean, I have 5 kids also, so that in and of
Oh.
itself is like, yeah. And they're getting older too. My oldest is 18. My youngest is 8. Um, but I never really required alone time. And I was an only child, but raised as an only child, but doing this work, it's taught me that that is invaluable time and I need it probably to gather my life force energy so that I can, yeah, like do this work. Um, it's so important. That's probably like the number one thing that stands out to
Mm-hmm.
me. So I'm glad I'm
Mm-hmm.
not alone in that. Um, so this is a big question. But how do you feel that mediumship has changed your life? Because you've been doing this professionally for 10 years. And I feel like our listeners can learn a lot from maybe how it's changed you as a person or how you live your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think more recently, there's the part of me that is so blessed to to do this full time and to be supported by my local community or people, online, to be able to make a go of this and to do this every day of my life. I mean, that I know, right? But more recently, questions about, how should I put it? Has this made me more conscious of the fact that I'm going to die or that my family's going to die at any given time? Has it made me more conscious of that than I would like to be?
Mm.
And I know that's kind of a downer part of the
No, but
job, but
yeah.
to me, I find myself thinking about that more than I would like to be.
Mm.
But of course, then the beautiful side is that I know that we continue, I know all of that, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm not done here. I don't want my family to be done here yet. And so that sometimes I wish that I had chosen something easier for that reason, I look at other people going to work and doing their jobs and I think, that would be a different life experience. But there's nothing else at the moment that I want to do. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things that I just keep coming back to and reassessing really each year. And that's what I do over the summer is, okay, what does the next year of my life look like? And I try to limit how far out I can be booked so that if I want to make changes in my life, I'm not booked up for the next year of my life, right? I keep it in a manageable space so that I can change and add things to my life that also resonate with what I want to
I
do.
I love that. And I love your grounded energy and your grounded approach to this work. I think that's why I was so drawn to you on social media because, sometimes people can get so woo, like, I don't think that's the right word, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
esoteric or like spirituality, but it comes across, it can be like, toxic,
Yeah.
and I really love your kind of pragmatic approach to things and even like the way you release readings, right? So you're in control of when you release them and how many you're doing. That seems so healthy. And I think a lot of people doing this work can get a lot with your approach to doing it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
thank
I
you
used
for
to feel a
sharing.
lot of pressure to like be available
Mhm.
and to offer up lots of my time to people on my wait list and now I know that it really is just that when my calendar opens up, the right people are going to book and
Mhm.
the people that wait for me are my people. And
Mhm.
I try not to have that pressure because then I'm just what's the point in running a business and doing something purposeful if it's not even enjoyable? So yeah, I think we have to just be honest with ourselves how how we want it to go and just communicate that to people. Like sometimes I release a month at a time, sometimes I release 3 months at a time, sometimes I go only Zoom so that I can travel. And I used to be really concerned that like, oh great, no one's going to book with me because I did that. And I found the opposite is true. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we have to enjoy it too.
Yeah, and it is such demanding work. It's important to have those boundaries. And I feel like too, that's something I've really learned from spirit is I'm
Hmm.
so well boundaried in my
Yeah.
life, in relationships and my time. And I really think the spirit world has taught me that because we have to be. But
Yes.
yes.
Yep. Me too. Just
Yeah.
another one of those self-growth
Mhm.
lessons being a medium, right?
Yeah, totally.
100%. Yeah.
So I feel like you've touched on just already in the conversation some great advice for developing mediums. What would you say to your younger self early in development? What would be your advice in opening up to this work or navigating?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh gosh. What would I say? I think that I would say sort of what we touched on earlier, that just be yourself
Yeah.
and don't make it complicated.
Mhm.
It's not about, yeah, we got to eat healthy, we got to take care of our bodies, but like you can eat meat, you
Yeah.
can not eat meat, you can like all of those little things that I kind of worried about in the beginning. Even when I started to learn that, like, oh, whoa, I don't have to sit and balance my chakras before a reading, or I can do a reading in a busy place. It really would just be that it's simple, that
Mhm.
spirit's never going to fail you. So just trust and don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't restrict your life for spirit. Let
Yeah.
spirit just come in to who you are and what your life looks like.
I do think that's something people do early on too. We're kind of like not desperate, but there is a little bit of this energy of doing everything right
Mhm.
to invite spirit in. So spirit will
Yeah.
come. So yeah, I love that. And I was also reading on your About Me page that you really jumped right into mediumship,
Mhm.
not really developing psychically or doing that. And I found that interesting and would love you to speak to it because I know we're called psychic mediums, like that's kind of the term, but I also found that I just gravitated to mediumship. And so even when I'm reading psychically, I feel like I'm still doing it mediumistically. I'm not sure like the mechanics of
Yeah.
psychic versus medium, but when I'm getting psychic inform or I'm getting information about somebody's life, it's through their spirit people. So I don't know. I would just love to hear you how you've kind of incorporated psychic into your work, or if you feel like you're just mostly a medium as well.
Mhm. I keep the 2 very separate. For
Okay.
me, I want my clients to be coming to me with a pretty clear intention of what they're looking for. So if they're looking to hear from their loved ones, unless their loved one is telling me, whatever, you're gonna be moving or whatever
Hmm.
future life advice
Hmm.
related things, unless the spirit person's talking about it, I'm not talking about it. So there are many times in a mediumship reading where I have to rein myself in because I can start to kind of be pulled like, ooh, look what's coming up for this person, because they mentioned where you live and then my brain starts to look at that, but I'm
Hmm.
always reining that in and pulling it back.
Hmm.
And then in a psychic reading, I have all of the permission to do that. And so for me, it just feels like a timeline kind of stretching out in front of me. And I just look past, present, future. And yeah, I think it's important to keep them separate or to communicate to the sitter. If in a mediumship reading, let's say you start to pick up on they're going to have a job change in the future, but you pick that up psychically, I will
Hmm.
always just say,
Yeah.
I accidentally went psychic there for a sec, and I just want you to know that I'm seeing this, but I'm going to come back to your loved one and see what they have to say. I will always communicate that because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because life advice from your dad, say in spirit, might be taken much more seriously than if I'm saying it, right? Like you should
Right.
change jobs. If
Yeah.
dad's saying it, you might be like, oh, well, dad knows all about my history. But if I'm just saying it,
Hmm.
you might not take it the same way. So
Yeah.
I think it's important that we communicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I use the cards. I feel like that's kind of my psychic thing, but still mediumistically, I guess that's what I lean into is like I trust spirit so much. So if somebody is looking for advice or asking questions, it's always through the spirit people, the way I work.
Mhm.
So probably just
Mhm.
because I've developed that, like,
Yeah.
okay, it's not me saying it. It
Yes.
is dad, you know?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, interesting. I had a funny thing happen recently in a group reading, and I wonder if you've ever experienced this. I had one of the people sitting um, say they wanted an apology from the spirit person, and the spirit person was just not giving it. And I'm not gonna, so like, have you ever encountered that where somebody's like stating the expectation and it's like a little bit awkward because this isn't work where we're going to be inauthentic and say what you want to hear.
Mhm.
Because I think some people don't realize, like, first and foremost, it's spirit. Like,
Mhm.
the trust is there. I'm not going to break that trust either. So if this person is not going to say it, I don't know what to tell you. So I don't know if you've ever encountered situations like that. But yeah, I just wondered what you might
I
do in that
have.
situation. Yeah.
I have. I wouldn't say that I can remember that I've had someone say, I want them to apologize to me, but I have had a spirit person come through and make me aware that there's a good reason why they should apologize. But then I kind of feel like they won't, or they're not. And I've always taken that as it's them showing me their personality.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
in life, they're
Yeah.
not going to apologize. So
And
don't
so,
expect one
yes.
now.
Yeah.
But of course, they want you to know that they're sorry. Like that's how I've always taken that.
And I kind of had to say it like that, like you would understand that this is their personality. Oh, yes,
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
like lands well, but
Yeah.
yeah. Is there any advice you would have to people coming to a reading with you?
Mm.
Is there any way that you prep them or anything that you would say before they come and sit with you
Mhm.
in a reading?
Mhm. One thing that's really important to me is that you're arriving ready. Like you're arriving, sometimes like you've left work to get here and it's been a bit of a drive. Like all of those things make sense. But arriving grounded
Mhm.
and somewhat calm and thinking about your loved ones leading up and asking them to come through, refreshing your memory of names and dates and all the things. For me, I find the reading goes well when you are calm and
Yeah.
ready. Yes, you can be excited, nervous, all those things, but don't come in the office 3 minutes late,
Yeah.
frantic.
Yeah.
That is something we have to work through. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't be late.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. And I feel like you can feel it too. Like if they're running a
Yeah.
few minutes late, I'll be like, are they coming? Did they get the day wrong? Or
Yes.
and if I feel that
Yeah.
nervous energy, it's like they'll be here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So I want to get to a couple other things I've noticed you doing. And one of them was when you went to a home and explored it and investigated it. And I loved all those videos. I found it so fascinating because you've been doing this work for as long as you have this confidence about the information you're getting and just delivering it without needing the immediate validation from a sitter. I know that you had in the run through of the videos I watched, you had somebody who could say, yes, this happened, or yes, there was a fire here, or whatever the things were. So, how often do you do that? And can you just explain that work or what drew you to do that? I think that's fascinating.
Mm. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
kind of reflecting that back to me, that I seemed confident in that video or in those videos, because that was really new for me. So I
Mm,
haven't done a whole lot of that. But last summer, there's a heritage home in the town that my mom grew up in. My whole family is there. And I went to an evening talk about some of the ancestors connected to the home, and then the next day they invited me to come back to do a reading and just see what I could pick up on.
yeah.
And I always knew that I had ancestors connected to the house, but I didn't know exactly how until after. So I actually think that some of the people that I connected with were my relatives from like 300 years ago. It was really cool.
Oh,
But I really had to work through because as an evidential medium, we are trusting that what we're saying makes sense because the sitter is answering us back and telling us it makes sense, right? And then, of course, there's some things that might make sense in the future and things we don't get today. They got some homework. But in this case, over 300 years of history connected to this heritage home.
so multiple spirits. So we're
Yeah.
talking like, yeah.
Yeah, and like, generations and different iterations of the structure of the house. At first it was just one level, then it was raised, then it was, so
And I loved those parts in the videos where you were like, there's stairs here, or this was actually the kitchen, or whatever it
yeah.
was. And they were like, yeah, actually, this was
Mhm.
demolished. You would, or this part was redone. You wouldn't know it. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
everybody should go to your YouTube. There's just so
Aw.
much. Yeah, I love all those videos.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
really stretched me to just say what I'm getting. And if it doesn't make sense right now, or maybe it never makes sense in the future, we can't
Mhm.
always be taking mediumship so serious that, or psychic work, that it has to be validated in the moment. And that's something I've been learning to ease up on is
Well,
like,
and we can't validate everything. I mean, I think you
yeah,
touched on some things that like just get lost
yeah,
in history. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Um, what would you say? So say you're going through the house and you do come upon an energy that's uncomfortable or doesn't feel great. And then maybe you can also speak to helping people, like if they feel like they have a haunted house or that they feel like it has a darkness. What do you do when you encounter something like that? What would you tell
Mm.
others to do to that space?
That's a hard one for me because to be completely honest, I don't necessarily believe in like ghosts and hauntings.
Yeah.
To me, when I was reading that house, for example, it was just the beautiful memories and the history and the people that built the place, the people that loved it, the people that lived there, wanting to just say, "Hey, I put this wallpaper up," or whatever. To me, it was a playful, beautiful thing. Now, yes, I've walked into buildings and thought, "Ugh, something went on in here like this. I don't like this."
Yeah.
But the way I look at that is that's more of like maybe an energetic imprint
Imprint. Yeah.
on the
Mhm.
building rather than an angry,
Right.
negative,
Mhm.
evil spirit person
Mhm.
who's just like stuck in there forevermore. I've never experienced that and I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
So I think, I think one, if you feel like there's something in your house or someone in your house, first place I would go is it's probably just one of your loved ones trying to get your attention and you're adding fear to it. So I would look
Exactly.
there first, because spirit can feel like anxiety. It's
Yeah.
that kind of excited, high buzzing feeling. So look there first. And then other times it can be that maybe there's a mental health or addictions type of, a living person who has a lot going on that they're struggling with. That can kind of be felt in a home, things like that. Look for the more simple explanations than like there's attachments and ghosts and
Yeah.
because
I,
it's
I 100% agree. And I always tell people, you're the best person to clear the space because it
Mhm.
kind of like, I don't know, it's one of my pet peeves when people pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to have one person who says they're clearing the
Yeah,
space, clear it and leave. It's like, no, you are
no.
the best person to clear your space and you're doing it
Yeah.
for your piece of, you know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
whatever tactile thing you need to do to clear the space, it's all intention anyway.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree too. It's probably their loved ones, and we put the fear to it. And
Yep.
sometimes if we feel like we see the dark shadows, it's our fear, you know? So, yeah,
Yes.
I'm absolutely with you. Um, so so you have a new venture that you're doing with somebody else where you're doing investigations. And is this missing person investigations primarily
Mhm.
that you're doing? And how are you enjoying it? How are you finding this work? connecting with spirit again, even more removed, having somebody validate it in the moment for you and just doing it and then fact checking the information you're
Mhm.
getting. How is that?
Hmm.
And
So
yeah,
I met another medium, Rhiannon. She's actually in Australia.
okay.
So my friend from the future, I call her. Time zone a little bit tricky, but we've started. It's going to be primarily a YouTube channel to start, but a podcast called Third Eye Witness.
Okay.
And what we want to do with this is to be of service to families that perhaps have a missing loved one,
Mhm.
or probably more so cold cases that need to be brought back to the awareness of the public in case somebody has a lead or answers. And
Yeah.
so we've got two case managers who are not mediums. They are researching or receiving cases and gathering all the information and providing us with just a name, a first name, and a photo. And we each individually are doing our initial readings. And then we're going to come together on the episode to discuss our findings. And then our case managers will validate what we've picked up on. And so we're just getting started. We haven't done a bunch of cases yet. The first one we did turns out it is not safe to release for us or anyone involved. So we canceled that one.
Yeah.
We'll have another one coming out in May, but we're accepting submissions. So we just
Cool.
want to be of service. It's not something that we're charging for. It's something for us
Yeah.
and to help. So yeah, missing persons, cold cases. We're not looking for items or pets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're doing the serious side of it. So, and you've done a couple cases too, haven't you?
Yes, and same as you, one is just not necessarily appropriate to talk about
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah.
And then another, and I work with a fellow medium as well. So it's been so nice to then, figure out what is out there publicly to validate things. And then together, that's the part that blows me away is two mediums working together and what you can, because I almost feel like mediumship is a bit of putting puzzle pieces together and the strength in working with somebody else and the puzzle becoming more clear is
Mm.
really fun. And of course, being of service and helping. It's just another way of doing it. But I definitely think it's for the more advanced medium because so much
Mm.
goes into it in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, it's something I've wanted to do. I took
Yeah.
courses years ago, a couple of online courses for like remote viewing and that kind of thing. But more so recently, I felt more confident and comfortable with giving, if someone privately comes to me with a missing loved one, like you don't want to lead them in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to structure what you say and what you receive in a way that's actually helpful and
Yeah.
doesn't, some people have search teams organized and they're
Mhm.
spending thousands of dollars. So I
Yeah.
would
The
I
dogs.
would
Yeah.
never want to send someone in the wrong direction. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
And we've met with retired officers and officers on the cases, or detectives rather, too. And they say if you get it wrong, they will never listen to you again. And so there's just so much writing on what you present, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Even though sometimes things need to be interpreted in a different way. I
Yeah.
mean, we know
Yeah.
what it's like to receive information and find out, "Oh, it fits, but it fits like this,"
Yeah.
right? So it is challenging.
Yeah. There's some
Yeah.
grace that we need in mediumship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
Yes, totally. Well, this hour has just flown by. I feel like there's so much more I could talk to you about and get to. So we'll have to do it again in the future. I've really enjoyed our conversation and tell people where they can find more information about you. You do offer sessions. You have group readings in Canada in person, and you do tarot spreads too for people, like not
Mhm.
actually one-on-one. You offer where you would send it to them. So yeah, tell people where they can find all your good stuff.
The best place is my website, jennyjuranis.com.
Mhm.
And only book through my website. Don't fall victim to the scammers. They're everywhere. So
Wow.
always look for the blue check mark on social media. And my handle is at Psychic Medium Jeni Juranics on Instagram, Facebook, and
You have
yeah,
a YouTube channel.
I do have YouTube. I've got my own podcast, Spirit Call, that's available on all the platforms. What else
Great.
can I tell you?
And I will link that in the show
Thank you.
notes. And thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.